halt to the UDC V8 Ute race. We wondered why the red flags were going out, and then we caught sight of the banner blowing in the wind. It was quite frightening.
You can see over in the right-hand side of the picture there, the pole that's angled, but that's all tied down. The one on the left that held the lights is gone, so I'd say we'll be seeing a flag start for the first time in many years.
It's been a while since we've had that back in your day, Drakey.
Oh, that's not very long ago.
All right, so we're not too far away here. What we can tell you, more than likely, it is going to be slightly shorter in duration this race with the delayed start to the third and final race. Solid weekend for Shane van Gisbergen and Simon Evans. Onboard cameras. That'll be Dominic Story in the iSport Ford, scheduled to start out of position 12. They were in the wars in race number 2. There is the front row of the grid. We're going to have a look at the grids here now. Simon Evans, Shane van Gisbergen off the pole, Andre Heimgartner, Paul Morris from 2. Evans will start the 4, Morris the 22. Richard Moore and Tim Slade from position 3, and Pedersen Johnny Reid will start out of position 4.
Row number 3, and that's Mark Gibson and John McIntyre, the local boys, and alongside him Angus Fogg and Australian Tony D'Alberto. Row number 4, Paul Manuel and Aussie Shea Davies, and alongside him Mitch Cunningham and the young man Cameron Waters.
Chris Hanley will start the Ferndale Farms 27. Jack Perkins will start the Mike Perra number 1 paired with Greg Murphy. Tim Edgell and Steve Owen off 11. Owen will start that. Dominic Story, Dale Wood, obviously Story starting that machine. Sean Varney and John Penny starting out of 13. Sean Varney will start the number 14. They had a fuel pump issue in the previous race. On board, Simon Evans looking for the 3-peat over the weekend. First ever wins for the Smeg Racing team. And they have been the class of the field, and so often we've talked about Greg Murphy being the class of this field. On board with Dominic Story, second of our onboard camera systems. Dale Wood with a lot of damage sustained after a clash with Paul Manuel in the Oryx Commodore in race number 2. And Drakey, I got a little heads up from Mark Pedersen a couple of minutes ago that there may have been some rain coming through on the rain radar. There is some rain on a couple of our cameras around the track. There is another factor we're going to have to deal with here after one of the most bizarre afternoons in New Zealand motorsport.
Well, I tell you, I'm looking at one of those cameras now, and it is getting wetter and wetter and wetter.
Windscreen wipers are on.
Yep.
They're all on slicks.
You could not have timed this better if you're looking for action here at Taupo.
Wow.
And, geez, I wonder what's going to happen here. I mean, this is throwing the cat amongst the pigeons.
Well, definitely there is rain down into turn number 1. You can see the haze. Mark Pedersen down there in pit lane. Mark, how heavy is this rain?
Yeah, it's getting quite wet here, boys. So, look, what they can make a decision is that if, within the next lap, if they don't take the green formation lap, if they decide that they want to wait until this race is declared wet, which they can very easily do, what they'll do is they'll bring all the cars into pit lane and then make them mandatory change on the wets. Now, if they take the start of this race and then they did clear the wet, so the race meeting wet, sorry, the teams have 2 laps to come in, change on the wet tyres. So that becomes a compulsory pit window for them as well.
Could we have any more drama this afternoon?
No, I tell you what, it's pretty windy and it's pretty wet down here. And look, your nice air-conditioned commentary box you fellas are in. So yeah, and it's got shown no signs of lightening up either.
Shane's actually getting a little bit seasick. We're rocking. We're rocking in the com box.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go, you poor buggers.
Yeah, I'm not a good passenger, I can tell you.
And I can tell you that from first-hand experience. Drakey does not like being in the suicide seat. Right, so rain is falling. Yeah, it is well and truly falling. That is on the approach to turn 10 up past the Taupo Motorsport Club rooms up towards turn 11. Well, we talk about drama. Race 1, first victory for Evans, Van Gisbergen, Moore and Slade was second, Heimgartner, Morris in third. Race 2, Evans and Van Gisbergen again. Murphy and Perkins in second, Heimgartner, Morris in third.
There's something else these guys have got to contend with, these winds, which are obviously very, very strong. We've got no idea how strong, but it's going to knock these cars around. And
that would also account for the camera movement you can see there. It is incredibly windy. Our long-suffering camera crew for TV3 out in the elements. Not only are they trying to keep dry, they're trying to keep the cameras still. I mean, these are big cameras.
Look at the way that rain is coming across. You can see how strong that wind is.
The lights are out on the safety car.
Race management.
Getting a call on race radio.
Out.
They're going to go green here.
A start this lap.
Well,
Wow.
I like the sound of that.
They're going to go green on slick tyres. Track wet. You can see how much water on the windscreen there of Dominic Story's iSport 9. Simon Evans, Paul Morris. Cunningham's gone straight into the pits in the 32.
Yeah, strap yourself in. This is going to be something else.
This is going to be incredibly treacherous as we get the green for race 3. A delayed start with some bizarre happenings.
Oh, this high gun has locked it up.
Yeah, Morris can't get it stopped. Paul Morris in the Hydrolink 22. He's out on the grass. Unbelievably, everybody else has managed to get through turn number 1, but I would expect pit lane is going to get very, very busy at the end of this lap.
Watch this, Jamie. This is not nice around here either. And look at the Moore car.
Yep, Richard Moore in the Mike Perro 10. He's right in behind Simon Evans. They are tiptoeing their way around the Taupo Motorsport Park. And it is raining heavily. Evans trying to get traction down out of turn number 5. Loses the lead. Richard Moore squirring around in acceleration, heading up towards turn 5. This is just dangerous. How's the start from Dominic Story? He's come from 12th up into the 3rd position. Mark, I wouldn't have thought any of these guys have gone out on a wet tyre. Oh, sorry, it's Ed Peterson. The two cars looking very similar. That's
easy to do.
Yeah, Johnny Reid. It's Johnny Reid, apologies. And J.O. Russell Ford. Evans is starting to get swamped here. Really treacherous conditions.
I'll tell you what, just think of something else going on here at the moment. These guys are wobbling around this track at the moment. Mitch Cunningham, the Mitch Cunningham number 32 car is already on its way out of the pit lane, and might find that car, the 32 Ford, could be leading in a lap or so. Yeah, Mark Gibson's gone by Simon Evans as well. So they've made that decision. Sean Varney is also pitted, the number 14 Ford. There's Paul Morris coming back after going off at turn 1. He's just picked off 3 in one move down into the BNCSs. A little bit off track there on the grass. They're staying out there.
Well, they're going to stay out there.
Here comes the 47.
There's Gibson going in, Evans going in behind him. So not everyone deciding to pit. They're going to try and live out there as long as they can on slicks. And there's going to be some congestion up and down pit lane. Varney leaves pit lane. He pitted just in behind Mitch Cunningham. He did not take the start.
Race management. The race has been declared.
And they've just declared the race wet on race radio, Mark. So what you said earlier, they've got 2 laps for a compulsory stop to go to wet tyres.
That's right, yeah. So within the next 2 laps, we're going to see everybody come in. What is interesting, guys, is looking at Paul Manuel's car. They changed it onto wets, but they haven't taken the car into the garage. So obviously a bit gun-shy after race 2 and what happened there.
Well, yeah, so there was a monetary penalty assessed to the 4 teams that pitted in their pit bunkers rather than out in pit lane. So the 3 M3 cars and Angus Fogg's Property Tutors Holden Commodore.
Yes, unfortunately, there was, as we explained in the telecast of race 2, there is that things were not black and white as the Edgell car goes past Morris.
Steve Owen making a pass there. Look at that. Now, did McIntyre go into his pit bunker there?
That could be...
well, that's fine. I think it was the number of people and the number of guns that were being used as the issue from the infringements from race number 2. It's probably not silly with the congestion up and down on pit lane. There's not a lot of room between the 2 cars parked side by side in the pit base. So the race has been declared wet. All of these cars will have to pit within the next 2 laps. Just looking at the lap times, 1:56 for Richard Moore on the last lap. What's going to be interesting here is to see the pace of Mitch Cunningham, who's the first car to go onto the wet tyres. Let's see who pits this time.
Oh, it's gone very, very wide.
Steve Owen, very, very wide, and they are in. Perkins stays out.
I can't understand why you'd stay out. I mean, then you're doing 1 minute, nearly 2 minute laps, and we saw in race number 2 that they're doing around about 1:38, 1:40, so they're going to lose 20 odd seconds a lap. That number 1 car of Murphy and Perkins, they're going to pay a huge price for this.
You would expect so, as...
Guys, just jumped down here down a pit lane, the home gardener comes in, but what's interesting is they took the Moore car back into the pits again, right into the pit bay. So they're not afraid to take the monetary fine on the chin, probably because of the gain that's going to get out of it.
Yeah, that's an interesting call, isn't it? So a brand new set of wets going on. Paul Morris Hydroling Commodore. From race 2 with the pit stops of the wheel change when they went on to slicks, we were sort of seeing with those guys that did it legally, around sort of 50 to 55 seconds ideally to change all 4 wheels. 2 guns limited per car.
Obviously singular wheel nuts on these cars, not a big centre locking nut.
Yep, 5 individual wheel nuts.
Yep, like the supercars.
So Paul Morris back underway. Right, Mitch Cunningham, looking at his lap times. He was doing 44s. His first outlap, a 44, when you know, Jack Perkins is doing 56s on slicks in the wet. So what's that, 12 seconds that they have lost in 1 lap alone by staying out on slick tyres. So Morris back out on track in the Hydroling 22. We haven't even talked about the compulsory pit stop for the co-drivers change yet, because typically from the second race that pit window's lap 20 to 26. But whether or not that's going to change here with the shortened duration of the race, aided by the fact that we've got rain. Here's Perkins in the Mike Perry Mortgages #1. How much time has he lost by staying out there?
Yeah, I really don't know why you do that unless you knew that there was congestion in the pit lane, that he was going to be stationary without any work going on.
Sean Varney into the 42 straight away. So those 2 cars, Varney and Cunningham, that ducked in before the race start, a 12 seconds plus a lap quicker. Yeah, again, Murphy and Perkins, they're pitting inside the pit bunker.
Guys, you've hit the nail on the head, guys. It was actually worth their while to stay out and lose 10 seconds because they gained 25 seconds by going into the pit bunker. And, of course, they couldn't come on the lap before because the Moore car was in. So, look, a strategic move, no doubt, on their part.
Man, we've seen some weird goings on this weekend, haven't we? It didn't translate to a plus for them in the second race because Van Gisbergen still managed to get ahead of this car and Tim Slade in the sister M3 Racing car.
Yeah, that's because he had so much pace earlier on, though, Jamie.
And a stall for Perkins. That's cost them a little bit more time. Crucial seconds. Bizarre goings on here in Taupo for race 3 for the PNT NZ SuperTourers. Jack Perkins coming back out on track, having taken their pit stop to change to wet tyres. Race declared wet. They had 2 laps to get him in and changed. Probably half the field changed early. It's dropped him back in behind Paul Morris, Steve Owen in the Chester's Holden. Just waiting to see how this is going to cycle out with the pit stops, with the compulsory co-driver changes to come up a little bit later on as well. So you might have Mitch Cunningham in the lead here.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's going to happen. It's looking like he's something around about 14 odd seconds up the road from Simon Evans at this stage.
42.5 for Cunningham, 41.7 for Simon Evans. They are the 2 quickest drivers on track. Sean Varney of 42, Dominic Story of 43. Those were the 4 of the earlier cars that pitted before the declaration for a wet race was declared.
So this battle resumes before the pit stop. They were opposite. Owen had overtaken Morris, and now he's got to go and do it all again. Here he goes.
Going to cross him over. Nice clean pass through the middle of turn 11.
Yeah, I think Paul knew that was going to happen. Wisely got out of the way.
Shay Davies just up ahead of them in the Oryx Commodore. There's Jack Perkins in the background. So Cunningham is the race leader at a 141.8. Simon Evans a 140.8. The gap is 13 seconds. That is a huge gain for the Cunningham Waters car. That was a big move going in before the start of the race.
It's a good move.
Well, effectively, he didn't lose any time apart from travelling down pit lane, which everyone's done. And you can see here, well, actually, no, you can't see here. Dale Wood's got some misting problems with the front screen of the iSport Ford. So that is a big gain for that car to put them out in front with a 13-second lead.
Well, he pitted before they crossed the stripe, And, you know, you saw how they slowed each other. Everyone slowed each other up at turn 1, and then it was just a horrible lap, and he picked up, you know,
20 plus seconds basically over the 2 laps that the others decided to stay out on track. So I can tell you that Jack Perkins is currently in the 8th position, 44 seconds down on the race leader, Mitch Cunningham.
Yeah, 3 laps at 15 seconds. That's where he is.
That's the gap. And it was that 12 to 15 seconds was the difference on slicks in the wet. See the demisters now starting to work there for Dale Wood. Heated front screen in these cars. I understand there is a supercar style Perspex front screen coming for the class in the next few weeks, probably for the next round at Hampton Downs.
Hey guys, just here with the Mitch Cunningham car. One thing we've got to keep in mind here, they actually come and put wet tyres on before the race was declared wet. So it's actually under review whether they're entitled to do that. Yes, they come in before the race started, but of course, as we know, the race has to be declared wet before you can put the wet tyres on.
I tell you what, Mark, this is almost like rugby. There's too many rules. My head's hurting.
Hey, my head's hurting too, boys.
So there's the race leader.
Pit window, it has moved from lap 20 to now lap 10.
Just getting a call on race radio. Lap 10 for the pit window to open.
Opens at the start of lap 10 and will close at the start of lap 14.
This is the Cunningham forward.
Additionally, this is a time-determined
10 to 14 is the pit window. 10 to 14 is now the pit window for the compulsory driver change. Wow, things constantly changing. We've got gantries falling over, wind blowing, raining. How many of these types of races have we seen over the years, apart from the gantry falling over? So 11 seconds, the gap's come now. Cunningham at 40.6, Simon Evans 39.3, Mark Gibson at 38.5, Pedersen at a 38.5. Jack Perkins in the 40s, so fastest on track is Ant Pedersen at a 38.566. It's about 8 seconds slower than a full, slick, dry lap. On board with Simon Evans in the 2nd place.
Just struggling to come to the conclusion that Mark just mentioned about that a car can't change onto wets until the race has been called wet. I mean, it's got to be a choice by a team, a safety choice.
Yeah, again, depends what says the regulations.
I mean, there seems to be a lot of grey rules coming through when there should be black and white.
On board with Simon Evans, he's just done his best lap at a 38.6, so he's about a half a tenth off what Pedersen did on the previous lap, and in turn he was nearly a second quicker than Mitch Cunningham. The gap down to 10.9 seconds, but with that pit window opening, that 10 seconds is going to be critical with Cam Waters to get into that car, Shane Van Gisbergen to get into this car paired with Simon Evans.
Just easily as you go on the throttle, lines it up through turn 8, comes to the very fast rush security turn 9, 130 k's through here. Will probably not quite that fast now. Listen to that thing wheel spin.
Yeah, you can hear it light up on the white line at the edge of the track. Now the other thing that comes into the equation, Mark, and I don't know how much work was going down pit lane, but the teams that were able to make an adjustment to cater for the upcoming wet conditions, if they did know that was going to happen, as Jack Perkins goes by Paul Morris.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would have made any changes, to be honest with you, Jamie, because the rain was somewhat of a surprise to 99% of the people. But guys, just to throw another spanner in the works, is I'm looking over to the west where the wind's coming from, and the rain clouds are gone, and the blue clouds are coming back out. The blue sky's coming back again. So
I wouldn't expect anything less at this stage of the weekend with what's going on. If it dries out, 39.7 for Cunningham, a 38.51 for Evans, 37.6 for Gibson. Gibson, the Blackwood Protector Ford, is fastest on track right now, and he's only 4 seconds behind Simon Evans. Then it's Ant Pedersen, Shay Davies, Steve Owen in 6th, Paul Morris 7th. Now we Jack Perkins up into the 7th position. Morris back to 8th, Richard Moore, Tony D'Alberto, Chris Hanley, Sean Barney, and Dominic Story.
Mark, just to confirm for our viewers at home, does the race have to be called dry before they can go back to slicks?
no, that's at the discretion of the team. All they'll say is that the track has been declared dry again. so they actually turn off the rain light. So look, guys, just got clarification about that, about the wet weather. There's a fair bit of confusion going down, but it seems that if it rains, it's at the team's discretion, but if it's declared wet, the teams have to come in within 2 laps to change onto the wet tyres.
Okay, so status quo.
Status quo, exactly.
I mean, it's
right.
a safety thing. It's a choice by the team. Obviously, it's strategic, but it's also a safety issue, as we saw what they were trying to do on the first lap.
She's a no-brainer, really, isn't it, boys?
Oh, well, you know, paddling around there, just waiting for some grip is not a nice thing. As Perkins gets wild through turn 8.
He's just set the fastest lap for the race at a 37.32.
I was about to say he's on it. He's pushing hard.
Yep, so's Ant Pedersen in 4th, 37.31. Into the 36s goes Mitch Cunningham now, 36.6 for Mitch Cunningham. Cunningham, your race leader from Simon Evans, with Mark Gibson in 3rd. Fastest driver on track right now, Jack Perkins in the 7th position. There's a couple of drivers just dropped into the 6s. Mitch Cunningham out in front. Pit window not too far away to open. They've moved that pit window for the compulsory driver change to back to lap 10 and 14. Simon Evans 11.7 seconds out of the lead. Lost a couple of seconds on that last lap.
Yeah, I think he must have had a moment because he's the gap stretched to Cunningham and it's narrowed to Gibson.
Lost 1.2 seconds to Mark Gibson, who will be pretty much in his rear vision mirror. There he is there. That is 2nd and 3rd on track. Mitch Cunningham 11.7 seconds up the road.
Perkins is absolutely flying. He took like nearly 2 seconds out of Morris the lap before.
36.0 for Perkins. 36.0 for Perkins.
So that number 1 Mike Pero car has got some very good grip, but he's going to need it because he's just under 40 seconds in arrears of the man at the front, Mitch Cunningham.
Yeah, and you're not likely to make up that amount of time with the compulsory pit stop.
White flag shown to car 32, that's Smartsman.
So 2nd place Simon Evans, 3rd place Mark Gibson, only within a couple of seconds. Evans goes across the line. 39.0 for Cunningham, 36.9 for Evans, so he's picked up the pace again, a 36.9 for Gibson. That gap maintains at about 2.1 seconds.
We just saw the black and white flag coming out for car 32, so we're just trying to find out what that's all about. Perhaps he's taken a excursion off the track, all 4 wheels off the track possibly, which wouldn't be hard to do right at the moment.
Definitely not, and you can see it is starting to dry now. We saw Jack Perkins a couple of laps ago running down the inside of the backstraight looking for a little bit more water.
The other thing to add to it, Jamie, is the wind is so strong, it's just blowing. These guys are pumping the water into the air, and the water's just being blown off the track, so it's going to dry very quickly.
Hey guys, a bit of an update on the 32, the Mitch Cunningham Cameron Waters car. It was just a bit of a warning for leaving the track going through 12 and 13, so went across the grass, so just a bit of a reminder not to do that again.
Yeah.
Might not have an awful lot of choice in these conditions though, boys, don't you think? I don't know that he did it on purpose.
Instead of 1 warning, you might get 2 or 3 today.
Jack Perkins, 36.1 last lap. He's now within a second of Steve Owen. So that would be the battle for 6th and 7th. 9.6 seconds. The gap has come down. Cunningham to Evans. A couple of seconds back to Mark Gibson, and Pedersen is 10 seconds further behind Mark Gibson. On board with Dominic Story, currently in the 13th position. Pit window is now open for the compulsory driver changes.
And will remain open till the lead car crosses.
So that's the Cunningham Construction Ford leading the race. They chose to pit before the start of the race to go to wets.
She's a small window here too. She's 4 laps, so it's going to be interesting to see how teams get through this.
Yeah, well, the pit stop is going to be crucial. Ultimately, we're seeing pit stop times between 11.5 to sort of 16 seconds. Some of the slower times have been out beyond that, obviously.
Well, these guys are actually already going slower than what they were a couple of laps ago.
Cunningham's just dropped back into the 39s, at 39.3. Yep. Simon Evans was 2 seconds quicker and a half second quicker than Gisborne. So here is Paul Morris handing over to Andre Heimgartner, the first of our stops. And they've been pretty consistently fast with their stops throughout the weekend.
So these guys will be also gearing up behind behind our camera to get those slick tyres out ready to go.
Certainly no panic going on there. Mark, any idea of a time there? A little bit slow getting out. He's struggling to get it into gear.
Yeah, 25, 26, ticking over 30 seconds.
It's almost
hey guys,
like
let's just remind ourselves here about the wet to the slick tyre, because this is a timed race that's going to finish at 4:35. We're only talking about half an hour to go, and these cars will circulate on these wet tyres for the next half an hour. It wouldn't be comfortable, but they will do it.
All right, well, that's cost them some time with that stop. Maybe he just couldn't quite get the last buckle in on the belts. Wouldn't have thought he was struggling to get it into gear. Here is the race leader, Mitch Cunningham, handing over to Cameron Waters. This is a good return for them because they copped a lot of damage in race number 2. Simon Evans out, Van Gisbergen in, so they've pitted early. Second place behind Cunningham going in. They were 6.4 seconds down. 6.4 seconds down.
Guys, Evans have come in and they've jumped the Walters Cunningham car in pit lane.
That was fast. That was a blistering pit stop. That looked very, very good. So Shane Van Gisbergen should take over the lead here because they've jumped Cunningham in pit lane. There is the Cunningham Waters car behind them. So they've made up, what, a good 6 or 7 seconds there, Drakey.
Yeah, that's obviously they were behind the scenes. There was some issue with Waters getting in the car.
Well, there's an opportunity for John McIntyre and Mark Gibson to maybe get into this fight well and truly. They were a couple of seconds behind Simon Evans and Shane Van Gisbergen in third before the compulsory stops. Oh, Van Gisbergen, big full opposite lock.
This is not going to be a nice situation for these guys to get into. The track is drying to a point that these things are starting to get, the tyres are overheated, and it's starting to be like almost like a bit like jelly on a plate. Those rubber cubes on those wet tyres just get too hot and just have no suction into the track.
So Chris Hanley out, Daniel Gaunt's now in the Ferndale Farms Ford on board with Shane Van Gisbergen. Light application of the throttle up towards turn 11.
There's the difference down low with the feet work of Shane Van Gisbergen. You see his foot way to the left. He'll just leave that there, and he'll use his right foot to stab on the brakes. Unlike
Simon, who brakes with his left foot. Pick that up in the second race. So the co-driver's light on for Shane Van Gisbergen. Big flash of flame on the down change down towards the BNTS's. Perkins fastest lap of 35.8. So they are making some time up. Can they make up more time in the pit stop? They've been very, very good throughout the weekend as well. It's the more Slade entry in the pits. Tony D'Alberto, Angus Fogg in, D'Alberto out. So let's see how this cycles out and the gaps. Certainly at the moment, Shane Van Gisbergen looks to be the race leader.
Well, he's not on track, but should cycle out to be that way.
Should do, but I think watch the Gibson-McIntyre entry. We get a side of them with their pit stop, and I think they've already made that. Dale Wood out, Dominic Story in.
Other way around, Jamie.
Oh, sorry, Dale and Story out.
Dale Wood.
Nice and calm.
See, he's just doing it blind. He's actually not even trying to look down. He's doing it by feel.
So out goes Dale Wood. Left rear door on the iSport Ford after the damage from race number 2.
It was quite amazing out of that, all the massive sort of amount of bashing that went on there in that incident in the opening laps of race 2. There wasn't a lot of damage to those cars. It was more superficial, no real structural. As Johnny Reid jumps in the J.A. Russell number 96, and Peterson gives him a bit of a hand.
They lost some time with one of their stops over the weekend with the car stalling.
That's better.
That looked a lot better. Johnny's just getting the belts done up. Here's Jack Perkins handing over to Murphy. So they lost the better part of about 40 seconds to Mitch Cunningham early on. Interesting to see where they cycle back in. Perkins has set the fastest lap of the race at a 1:35.858.
This is Tim Edgell jumps in the Chester's number 8.
So Mark, down on pit lane, anyone really stood out with their pit stops? I thought the Evans Van Gisbergen one looked pretty quick.
Yeah, look, there was a sterling job by those guys. And next best, that was Timmy Edgell, Steve Owen. They come in a long way after the Murphy car, and you just see them come out of pit lane now, they're line astern. So that was a huge gain for those guys.
So Greg Murphy out on track after his compulsory pit stop. Jack Perkins doing the job early. Where are they going to cycle back out into the order? The pit window's about to close. The conclusion of lap 14. We believe the Van Gisbergen Evans number 4 will lead from Cunningham Waters. Gibson McIntyre. John McIntyre behind the wheel of the Blackwood Protector Ford, on board with the Giz. Looking for the three-peat for the weekend.
Mark, we've got about 22 or 23 minutes left of racing time. I'm not sure what conditions are like outside. Very warm in here, but do you think these guys are going to make it on the rain tyres?
Yeah, look, mate, I'm just poking my beautiful head through the gap in the pit lane here, and watching the Evans car come through right now. And absolutely, there is a dry line, but there's enough of a wet line they can go to keep these tyres cool, so that won't be an issue.
Right, so Van Gisbergen 136.7. Cameron Waters 136.5, 4.9 seconds. So Cam actually took a little bit of time out of Van Gisbergen. John McIntyre 36.7, 13 seconds behind the leader. So Gibson and McIntyre making some gains. Pedersen, Reed, Murphy, Perkins. Let's see what Greg Murphy can do. So he's come back out in 5th place. Just waiting for them to complete lap 14 to see what the gap is. 35 seconds out of the race lead. So they've made a gain of about 5 seconds based on the fact they lost probably close to 45 seconds in 3 laps staying out on slick tyres.
Yeah, that stint with Jack Perkins at the wheel really the car's obviously working very well for them. I'd say it'd be very good for Murph as well. And but I don't think there's a lot he can do. I mean, he's 20 seconds away from the next guy up the road. So, and as I said just before, with just over 20 minutes to go, it's a hard ask.
So Tim Edgell now in the car, confusing everyone with the co-driver's light on. The Chester's Holden started the weekend losing an engine, didn't contest race number 1. Spare engine in for race number 2, finishing in the 9th position. They are currently 7th on track. One of the last to make their compulsory pit stop for the driver change. And there's that drying line on the race circuit.
Now, unfortunately for the Edgells, in the way that this weekend works, it's a 2-day meeting, and they have 2 practice sessions, 2 qualifying sessions, and 3 races. So there's a lot to get through over a 2-day meeting. So the compression of all these sessions just didn't allow them to be able to make that race 1.
So Van Gisbergen 38.0. Cameron Waters a 36.1. He was 2 seconds quicker than Van Gisbergen, and the gap's down to 2.9 seconds out in front. So Cam Waters is chasing down the Smeg Commodore. 37.2 for John McIntyre, 36.5 for Johnny Reid. So the fastest on track is Cam Waters right now at a 36.1. Only 3/10 slower than Jack Perkins' best. So
well, there's a visual. Look, yeah. There's Cameron Waters.
Van Gisbergen's going to get a hurry up here.
So that, unless he's just conserving, but
the gap is definitely closed over the last lap. As I said, Van Gisbergen lost 2 seconds to the chasing Cam Waters. Look at that drying line up at turn 11.
And actually hear those tyres grinding away on that.
But they're all going to be in the same boat to try and get to the end and have rubber left under the car.
That's closer again, isn't it? He is flying.
Yeah, Cameron Waters is flying. I mean, Van Gisbergen has been one of the best in the rain, especially at Eastern Creek, but that gap is closing. Van Gisbergen coming under pressure from the young Australian Cam Waters. See what the lap time is this time. It was a 38.0 the previous lap, 38.7, 37.0 for Waters. 1.7 seconds quicker. Have they got an issue with the Smeg Holden?
Yeah, the gap now 1.2, and one would think that you wouldn't give away that much on a lap just to conserve.
Well, Mitch Cunningham's never won a V8 Super Tourer race, neither has Cam Waters. So could they add their names to the winners list? Simon Evans added his after the first 2 races of the weekend.
Look at this, he's in striking distance now. Brings that number 32, Robert Cunningham's instruction.
Greg Murphy's last lap was a 39.4, so they don't have exactly stellar pace right now either, and still in that 5th position.
Here we go.
But we've got a battle for the lead coming up here, Van Gisbergen and Waters.
Look at this, he's monstering him.
I think Shane might be trying to conserve tyres, thinking there's still a fair bit to go here.
He's giving away a lot, Jamie, that's all.
Yeah, he's given up a good 3 seconds over the last couple of laps. In fact, more than that, 3.5 seconds.
Listen to how slow he's on that. And here comes Waters. That thing's got a bit of a run.
Down onto the straight, Waters tucked up underneath the ring. Here he goes. The Smeg Holden.
And he's going to get a good toe down here. This is the way that the wind's coming as well. There's not enough. Are you going to go to the other side?
Shane late on the brakes. Got to get it turned into the BNTS's.
See how much these things move around.
Waters is right up underneath the rear wing. Holden versus Ford.
He's taking the good line through here.
Maybe a run up to turn 1. It's that close for the battle for the lead. They are 10 seconds clear of John McIntyre. Waters a half look down into 1.
Here he goes.
That Waters trying to sneak down the inside. They're going to have to be careful here, because if they tie each other up, it's going to give the opportunity to Johnny Reid. He's just jumped John McIntyre into 3rd, 37.8 for Reid.
I tell you what, don't forget, in race number 2, Johnny Reid was very, very quick in the rain.
He was quick. He was very, very fast.
Well, there's not any rain here, but it is a damp track.
So we started dry, it rained, it's drying again. We've had the light tower fall over in the wind gusts here at Taupo. Talk about drama, Waters.
This is it. Oh, I don't think Van Gisbergen saw it. Yes, he has.
That's at 8. You can see the back of the Van Gisbergen car moving around. Looks to be struggling on this tyre set a little bit more than Cam Waters. They've got an 11-second advantage over Johnny Reid.
I'll tell you what, Giz doesn't give him any room. Be careful not to overheat the tyres, trying to get too much power on as he goes hunting for some moisture.
Better run that time from Van Gisbergen. Waters, see if he tries to pick him off this time. He's down the inside. No. So Van Gisbergen having to work for this. Impressive Australian Cam Waters. He's been doing a lot of late model racing on the dirt in Australia, around Melbourne and South Australia. Up in
Here's the move, Jamie. Here's the move.
Down the inside. Waters is going to get it done. Shane's going to try and live there on the outside. No, Waters takes over the lead in the Cunningham Construction Ford.
I'll tell you what, if Waters can keep this pace up, he's gone and he's going to win this race.
Can he keep the tyre under the car? Looking at the lap times.
I mean, the man that we're on board with now is no mug in conditions like this, so something's not suiting him.
Everyone's lap times are starting to go backwards. We're now into the 39s and 40s. Greg Murphy, 39.7. Johnny Reid at 39.7. These two cars in the 40s.
You can see
John
the way.
McIntyre in the 40s. Shay Davies, Paul Manuel in the 40s. Yeah, it's more rain coming.
More rain coming now, so they might be right.
You got some more rain down there, Mark?
I have, but also the guy we'll call him the rain master at the moment. This is Mitch. Mitch, you made the call to come in on the first lap to change on the wets, mate. It couldn't have worked out better for you.
It's worked out pretty well. I was just sure of it this time that it was going to work. So came in, made the call, and we got the lead off the start, and just taking the lead of the race again now. So fingers crossed.
Mate, I've been in a few bunkers in my time, mate, but the pressure behind me, it's like a pressure cooker for these guys.
I can't watch.
It's a big improvement from the 8th and 10th place finishes so far this weekend. Right. Can Shane Van Gisbergen come back to Cam Waters? Change in the race lead. Waters leads here at Taupo for the BNT NZ SuperTourers. Cam Waters, race leader. Now the sun's coming out. We've got a little bit of rain back over the circuit. We've got some sun over the circuit. It is blowing a gale. 38.5 for Waters, 39.6 for Van Gisbergen. Johnny Reid at 39.7 on the last lap. So those lap times are now starting to back up. Fastest lap we had seen was a 35.8 in the full wet conditions from Jack Perkins in the bike Pero number 1.
Tell you what, Giz is still hanging on to him. Maybe this rain is just coming back to him. just helping the car work a bit better.
Yeah, interesting to know maybe that just we sit on this tyre and not overwork it, let Cameron Waters maybe overheat his. Just putting the theory out there. I have no idea if that's true or not. I'm not on the radios.
Well, we're all rocket scientists at some stage or another, so we'll go with that one, Jamie.
Definitely some rain out there around the circuit on our camera lenses, down on pit lane.
Guys, you're talking about rocket scientists, and here's one talking to you now. The rain's been and gone, okay, so that's behind us now. And the Cunningham car, there's no doubt they pushed hard on those tyres, and like they're saying is that they just hope that Cameron can actually nurse this thing along. He said there's no doubt that the tyres have been gone past the use-by date.
Yeah, it looks like Shane's lost a little bit more time on this lap. It's not a huge amount of wheel input going in.
Now listen to how softly he's applying the throttle.
Yeah, trying to keep the rear tyre under the car. We had a situation at Pukekohe last season where pretty much everyone was just about down to the canvas, got through the blocks on the tyres, effectively turning these Hankook wets into slicks. And it was just amazing how durable they were.
That's a bit of a mistake there by Van Gisbergen. He might lose. I tell you what, he recovered quite well.
See what the lap times are. Cam Waters down to the stripe. 39.5, 39.7 for Van Gisbergen. The gap is 1.1 seconds. Johnny Reid about 10 seconds further back in third, looking for the first podium of the weekend for the J.A. Russell Ford.
Yeah, he's just not been able to do anything with that lap time, is he?
He's cleared away from John McIntyre by about 4 seconds, 39.5 for Johnny Reid. So on a similar pace to Waters, but he's 11 seconds out of the race lead, 10 seconds behind Shane Van Gisbergen.
What a fascinating outcome. Just fascinating, but these guys made their own luck on lap one, and when you think about it, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but they did the right thing. They reacted very quickly.
Fourth place, John McIntyre. There is Johnny Reid just up ahead. It's been a solid weekend for the Blackwoods Protector Ford. Fourth place in race number one.
Race management.
Race fifth in race two.
Remaining in this race, 10 minutes left.
And we're just getting the call on race radio. 10 minutes left for this timed race. 10 minutes. That is going to be probably 7 laps. 6 to 7 laps, no more. 20 laps are complete.
So yeah, the wind must be up. Look at that camera shaking around. Feels like we're on the Cook Strait.
Our poor camera crew. Taupo does tend to offer this up from time to time. I've been at a few motor racing meetings down here where there's been a fair amount of inclement weather. We were down here for a kart meeting years and years ago. It was that cold that the water froze in the radiators of the kart engines, and they had to get the heat guns out to defrost them back to water so they wouldn't cold seize on startup. That's how cold it was.
Needed some glycol in there.
Third place, Johnny Reid, 39.5 last lap. So Cam Waters at 39.5, Van Gisbergen at 40.2, lost 7 tenths, gap out to 1.9 seconds, 11.5 seconds further back out of the lead is this car. Johnny Reid in the J.A. Russell 4 at 39.6, only a tenth slower than Cam Waters.
It's a good solid drive by Johnny. I mean, given the fact that he hasn't really been in a car since the enduro phase last season, it's an excellent job. 30-year-old from Auckland.
So we've had 22 different winners over the 3 seasons into the 4th season now for the BNC NZ SuperTourers. 22 different winners. Angus Fogg was the 21st at Pukekohe. Earlier on in the year, Simon Evans with 2 wins, adding his name to the list today. And Mitch Cunningham and Cam Waters become 23 and 24. Just a handful of laps left to go here, we believe about 5. Waters leads, Van Gisbergen, Reid, McIntyre, Murphy. Then it's the Morse, Slade, Entry, Heimgartner, Morris, Manuel, Davies, Edgell, Owen, Fogg and D'Alberto complete the top 10. This will be Angus Fogg in the Property Tutors Holden, currently in 10th. Definitely not feeling very well at all. Had a quick chat to him after race number 2, and he is decidedly under the weather.
Yeah, but do you think that's affected his sense of humour?
No, no.
He's still as funny as,
These cars are moving around, something chronic now as they get through the blocks on these Hankook wet tyres. It'd be too costly to go into the pits and go to slicks. We've only got probably 4 or 5 laps left to go here. we might get to lap 26 or 27.
Some more spots appearing on the camera and the window wipers going.
Windscreen wipers come back on.
Our meteorologist Mark Pedersen's obviously not making some very strategic calls down in pit lane about the weather.
You know Jim Hickey, Mark Pedersen.
I never said I was any good at it, that's for sure. But
oh, there's Tim Edgell going off through the BNTSs. Murph and Richard Moore. That'll be Timmy Slade, actually. Timmy Slade in the car. So that is for 5th and 6th.
And that's maximising advertising to the optimum, isn't it?
Well, Slade was he was a second and a half quicker on the last lap, and he's going to pick Murphy off down at turn 5.
Funny how things work. I mean, I spoke to Richard Moore after race 2, and they just said, both of them said the car was awful. Same feeling for both of them, but so hopefully they can fix it. And there's more rain on the exit of turn 7.
Yeah, certainly not heavy enough to make a huge difference here. Race leader, 3.3 seconds out in front is Cam Waters. I think my theory of Van Gisbergen maybe trying to keep on top of those rear tyres might have gone out the window, because he's going to have a go. He's going to have to get it going now. What a fabulous result it would be for Mitch Cunningham and Cameron Porters.
Race management.
A lot of damage.
Race management, black and white flag.
After race number 2.
Car 8, driver behaviour. Car 8.
We're going looking for water down the back straight, and there's not too much of it left. In fact, Murph's right down on the white line. Back on board with Van Gisbergen. Waters is out of the picture just about. He's disappearing. 41.0 for Waters, 43.2 for Van Gisbergen. So obviously Shane is really struggling on these tyres. Waters continues to lead towards the business end of this race from Van Gisbergen and Johnny Reid. Shane Van Gisbergen in second, but he's being hunted down by Johnny Reid. The gap second to third is down to 4 seconds and closing. Reid's last lap was a 40.0. Van Gisbergen was 3 seconds slower. Johnny Reid trying to get up into the second position. Cam Waters is 5.4 seconds up the road. Look at that gap closing. Van Gisbergen's really struggling on these tyres now. In fact, he's got a bigger problem. The car really slowing mid-corner.
Might be getting a potentially a slow punch. It's inevitable, isn't it?
Gear shift. Possibly a shift cut issue, maybe. It's like a missed gear through the middle. Missed gear through the middle of turn 11. They did have a little gear cut issue after race number 1, which I actually saw on the onboards. So Van Gisbergen very, very vulnerable here. John McIntyre's not too far behind. Reid's going to pick him off down into turn 1. There is McIntyre in the background. Bad sportsmanship flag going out for...
Oh yeah, there's definitely something going on there.
Yeah, it's a shift issue with the gearbox for Shane Van Gisbergen. Can he get it to the end? So they did have a similar issue in race number 1.
Well, the only saving grace is he's got about 8 seconds between himself and 4th place.
Maybe only a couple of laps to try and get it to the end to get that final podium. Johnny Reid's gone up into 3rd.
Hey guys, just went down to the Simon Evans team and asked if there was an issue. They shrugged their shoulders and said, yep, tyres.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit more than that, mate, because there was some missed gear shifts there.
Yeah, he would have reported back. Very obvious on the in-car as Johnny Reid now sets out. But he will have to settle for that second position unless something goes wrong with the man from Mildura, Cameron Waters, 2011 Formula 4 champion of Australia.
Van Gisbergen lost 5 seconds in that last lap. There's the gap first to second. Waters, last lap Waters not too far away here.
Race management, last lap
board is going out right now.
The leading car 32.
There it is. Cam Waters, Mitch Cunningham. Can they be winners? Number 23 and 24 in the BNT NZ Super Tourer history. Cunningham, a former Toyota Racing Series champ, as Drakey said. Cam Waters paired with Jack Perkins with Gelbin FPR and V8 Supercar Pertec Enduro Cup this season. 2011 Formula 4 champion. think that dirt experience with the late models has helped him in these conditions. Fairy tale coming up here for this car, considering how beaten up it was after race number 2.
It was, yeah. Those boys had to work pretty hard.
And I know the ironic thing too with them going past Shane Van Gisbergen and Simon Evans that the Evans team have loaned them some parts to get through the weekend as well.
These guys, what a reward. There's a lot of guys from Timaru on this car. In fact, almost the whole team's from Timaru. Their engineer Craig Russell out of Christchurch. Big change for them this year. Look at this, there's the rain coming down.
And Van Gisbergen's under pressure here now from John McIntyre. Last lap, can McIntyre get to the final podium?
Thing is with McIntyre, he gets a sniff and he just doesn't let go.
Cameron Waters out of turn 11, final lap. It'll be lap 26. First ever victory coming up for Cam Waters, more importantly for Mitch Cunningham. One of the hardest trying teams in pit lane. They certainly haven't had an awful lot of luck. Former Toyota Racing Series champion Van Gisbergen and McIntyre in the background.
What a result.
Fantastic result here. Mitch Cunningham, Cameron Waters. Waters will take it to the line. First ever victory for the Cunningham construction team. Winners number 23 and 24. Van Gisbergen trying to hold on to that third and final podium to go with the 2 wins from earlier on. There is Johnny Reid crossing the line in second. Van Gisbergen gets the drive. He will complete the podium. Third place in race number 3. John McIntyre in 4th in the Blackwood Protector Ford. Take nothing away though from Mitch Cunningham and Cameron Waters. Outstanding victory. The third and final race of the weekend here at the Taupo Motorsport Park. The Rush Security Taupo 400 weekend and the opening round of the 2014-15 Hankook Super Series. Oh, battle to the line. That was Murph and Andre Heimgartner for 6th and 7th. A character-building weekend for Greg Murphy and Jack Perkins, you've got to say.
Yes, that's certainly a long way away from where they were last season with all those dominant wins. One driver, though, and it was Murph. But, look, another season, and things can change.
So confirming the results from race number 3, Cunningham and Waters, their first ever victory in the BNT NZ Super Tourer Championship. Peterson and Reid in 2nd, Evans in 3rd, and Van Gisbergen hold on to 3rd in the end for the final podium to go with their 2 wins. Gibson, McIntyre 4th, Moore Slade 5th, followed by Murphy Perkins, Heimgartner Morris, Manuel Davies, Fogg D'Alberto, Edgell and Owen completing the top 10.